Have you ever felt like your own family overlooks you, as if your efforts vanish into thin air? That silent ache, the weight of unspoken expectations, and the sting of being invisible in your own home. Imagine the sharp smell of disappointment lingering in the air, the clatter of dishes, and the hollow silence when your achievements go unnoticed. What happens when love feels one-sided and recognition is just out of reach? Could your story mirror someone else's under the surface, hiding struggles we all face? This is about awakening to the truth that no amount of success can fill the void of feeling unseen. Are you ready to explore what it truly means to find your worth, even when your family doesn't see it yet? I'm Audrey Wilson, 24 years old, and I always thought family meant unconditional love. That illusion shattered the night of my brother Kyle's graduation dinner. Years of unequal treatment culminated in a moment that broke my heart. Dad proudly gifted Kyle a car for barely passing high school, then turned to me with cold eyes and handed me a rent bill. My 4.0 GPA and full-ride scholarship had earned me nothing but higher expectations and less love. That night changed everything. Growing up as the older sister to Kyle, who's 6 years younger than me, felt like living in two different households under one roof. From an early age, I noticed the difference in how our parents treated us, especially my father, Richard Wilson. Kyle's C grades earned him ice cream and praise, while my straight A's were met with, "That's what we expect from you." This pattern continued throughout our childhood and teenage years. I graduated high school as valedictorian, earned a full scholarship to State University, and maintained a 4.0 GPA while working part-time to cover my expenses. When I graduated college 3 years ago, there was a small dinner at home. My gift? A coffee mug that said, "The real world starts now." Meanwhile, Kyle struggled through high school with C's and D's, barely managing to graduate on time this year. After college, I moved back home temporarily. The plan was to work for a year or two, save money, and then apply to graduate programs in psychology. I secured a job at a local mental health clinic as an intake coordinator. It paid decently, but not enough to comfortably afford an apartment in our expensive city while saving for graduate school. Living at home was meant to be a strategic stepping stone, not a regression. My father, a successful contractor who built his business from scratch, always had a special bond with Kyle. They shared interests in sports and cars, while I took after my mother's more intellectual side. But even my mother, Laura, a kindergarten teacher, seemed to enable the favoritism rather than challenge it. When I would point out the discrepancies in how we were treated, she would say things like, "Your father shows love differently to different people," or, "Kyle needs more encouragement than you do." I tried countless times to address the unfair treatment. Once, after my promotion at work went unacknowledged, while Kyle's first part-time job at the mall warranted a celebratory dinner, I calmly asked my parents if they realized the difference in how they responded to our achievements. "You're comparing apples and oranges, Audrey." My father had said, "You've always been self-sufficient. Kyle needs more support to find his way." My relationship with Kyle himself was complicated. He wasn't malicious about the favoritism. In fact, he seemed largely oblivious to it. He looked up to me, often asking for help with schoolwork or advice about life decisions. I never resented him personally for how our parents treated us differently. If anything, I worried that the constant coddling would leave him unprepared for adulthood. Throughout my early 20s, I held on to hope that things would change once I had proven myself in the professional world. I thought my father might finally see me as the competent, successful adult I had become. Each small achievement at work, each dollar saved toward my future, was mentally cataloged as evidence that would eventually win his approval. The incidents leading up to graduation day painted a clear picture I was trying hard not to see. 3 months ago, when I received a substantial performance bonus at work, I excitedly shared the news at dinner. My father nodded and immediately turned to Kyle to ask about his baseball game. When Kyle got accepted to community college despite his mediocre grades, my parents took him out to a steakhouse and invited the extended family. When I was accepted to all 5 graduate programs I applied to in high school, my mother baked a cake, but my father was too busy to join the celebration. Last Christmas, my father gave Kyle an expensive gaming system to reward his improvement in English class from a D to a C-. My gift was a planner for the upcoming year with a note that said, "To help you organize your goals." The disparity was so obvious that even my Aunt Meredith raised an eyebrow. "Your father has always struggled to connect with people who don't think like him." Aunt Meredith told me privately, "It's not about love, it's about understanding." But her words, while well-intentioned, didn't lessen the sting of years of emotional neglect. Despite all this, I maintained a close relationship with my family. I contributed to household expenses voluntarily, did more than my share of chores, and made myself available to help Kyle with college applications and scholarship essays. I told myself that family is complicated, that my parents showed love in different ways, and that eventually my father would see me for who I was. Graduation day was when all those carefully constructed rationalizations finally collapsed. Kyle's high school graduation fell on a bright Saturday in June. I had requested the day off work weeks in advance, even though it meant giving up a crucial training opportunity that could have led to another promotion. "Family comes first," I told my supervisor, believing it despite the evidence to the contrary. The morning of graduation, I woke up early to help my mother prepare for the celebration dinner planned for that evening. We were expecting grandparents, aunts, uncles, and a few family friends to join us in celebrating Kyle's achievement. I spent 3 hours cleaning the house while my mother prepared her famous pot roast and apple pie. The scent of rain lingered in the air as I stood in the kitchen, preparing for my brother Kyle's graduation. My mother, Margaret, was buzzing with excitement, her voice filled with pride. "Your brother is so excited," she said, her eyes sparkling. I smiled, genuinely happy for him, even as a familiar ache settled in my chest. I had spent nearly $100 on a leather-bound journal and a gift card for his favorite bookstore, hoping to encourage his newfound passion for writing. But as I listened to my parents whispering about the surprise party, a pang of hurt washed over me. Just last month I had been accepted into a prestigious graduate program, and my father's response had been a dismissive, "Make sure that's a practical career path." Why did my achievements feel so invisible? My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Jennifer. "Good luck today. Remember what we talked about. Stand your ground if things get weird. Love you." I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay strong. As we arrived at the graduation ceremony, I watched Kyle, looking so grown up in his cap and gown. "Nervous?" I asked, straightening his tie. "A little," he admitted. "Did you feel this way at your graduation?" I reassured him, "Everyone does. Just enjoy the moment. You earned it." The ceremony unfolded like any other, filled with speeches and applause. I sat between my parents, my mother sniffling with pride, while my father cheered loudly when Kyle's name was called. I clapped, pushing down the memory of my own graduation, where my father had checked his watch repeatedly. "Our boy did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I bit my tongue, reminding myself that today wasn't about me. After the ceremony, we gathered for photos. I took most of them, stepping in only when an aunt insisted on a picture with both Wilson children. As we posed, I noticed how my father angled his body away from me, his proud smile dimming just a fraction. On the drive home, my mother turned to me. "Did you see the Johnsons at the ceremony? Their daughter Sarah is going to the same graduate school as you. Isn't that nice?" I was surprised she remembered. "That's great," I replied, touched. "Maybe you two can carpool," my father chimed in. "Save on gas money. That program's going to cost a pretty penny." But as we prepared for dinner, I felt the weight of my family's expectations pressing down on me. I was tired of feeling like a shadow in my own home. I needed to confront them, to claim my worth. Finally, I gathered my courage. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady but my heart racing. As I confronted them about feeling invisible, My mother's expression shifted. She reached into her purse and pulled out a letter, her hands trembling. "I've been advocating for you all along," she said softly. The letter revealed years of hidden support, words of encouragement I had never known. The warmth of that memory washed over me, awakening a sense of unseen love. In that moment, everything changed. I realized my family's dynamic wasn't as one-sided as I thought. With renewed resolve, I embraced my worth. I would pursue my dreams unapologetically, knowing I was seen, valued, and loved. And just like that, my small moment of being seen was transformed into another reminder of how I was viewed a financial calculation rather than a source of pride. Back at home, I helped set the dining room table with our best china and arranged flowers in the centerpiece. Through the window, I could see my father in deep conversation with my uncle, gesturing excitedly toward the garage, which had been kept mysteriously closed all day. The surprise, whatever it was clearly stored there. My stomach tightened with an unexpected feeling of dread. Something about today felt different, like we were approaching a turning point I couldn't yet see. I pushed the feeling away and focused on making the evening special for Kyle. After all, that's what good sisters do. By 7 our house was filled with the warm buzz of conversation and the delicious aroma of my mother's cooking. The dining room table had been extended to its full length to accommodate everyone. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, a couple of family, friends, and Kyle's godparents, who had flown in from Arizona, specially for the occasion. I wore a navy blue dress I'd bought on sale last month and had taken extra care with my hair and makeup. Part of me, the part that still yearned for my father's approval, despite years of evidence that it would never come, hoped that looking particularly put together might finally make him see me as the successful adult I'd become. Kyle sat at one end of the table, still in his graduation gown, though he'd removed the cap, beaming as relatives stopped by his chair to congratulate him and press cards into his hand. My mother fluttered around, refilling glasses and bringing out dish after dish. My father stood near Kyle, his hand resting proudly on my brother's shoulder as he recounted Kyle's challenging academic journey to anyone who would listen. "Not everyone gets school," he was telling my grandmother. Audrey Wilson sat alone in her dimly lit bedroom, the scent of her mother's lavender perfume lingering in the air. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but inside, she felt like a ghost. Her fingers brushed over the smooth paper of her award-winning essay, a reminder of her worth. A flashback hit her father's proud smile when he praised her school project. That moment anchored her belief that she was more than just a shadow in her family. It ignited a fire within her, a determination to be seen, to be valued. As she descended the stairs, the warmth of the family gathering enveloped her. The dining room was alive with laughter and the aroma of her mother's cooking. Yet a knot tightened in her stomach. Today felt different, like a storm brewing just out of sight. She pushed the feeling aside, focusing on making the evening special for her brother, Kyle. After all, that's what good sisters do. The table was set, extended to its full length, filled with relatives and friends. Kyle, still in his graduation gown, beamed as family congratulated him. Audrey wore a navy blue dress, hoping to catch her father's eye, to finally earn his approval. But as he stood proudly beside Kyle, recounting his brother's academic journey, she felt invisible once more. "Not everyone gets school," her father said, his voice booming with pride. But Kyle here persevered, showed real character pushing through when things got tough. Audrey sipped her wine, nodding along, deflecting questions about her own life with rehearsed responses. "Work is great. Yes, still planning on graduate school next year." Each answer felt like a mask, hiding the truth of her struggle for recognition. As dessert was served, her father tapped his glass, commanding attention. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate a major milestone in our family." The table fell silent, all eyes on him. Today, our son graduated high school. Applause erupted, but Audrey felt a pang of longing. Some kids breeze through school without breaking a sweat, he continued, his gaze flickering to her before returning to Kyle. And then there are the fighters, the ones who have to earn every grade. The words stung. She was a fighter too, but her battles went unnoticed. Your mother and I couldn't be prouder of the young man you've become, he said, his voice softening. You've shown determination, character, and heart. As he praised Kyle, Audrey's heart sank. She was tired of being the invisible sister, the one who always played second fiddle. But deep down, she knew she had to rise above. She had dreams, ambitions, and a story worth telling. And one day, she would make sure the world saw her for who she truly was. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box which he placed in front of Kyle. Son, we know you've been saving for a car, working those shifts at the mall, putting away a little each month. It shows responsibility, planning for the future. Kyle nodded, looking slightly confused, but pleased at the public acknowledgement. My father smiled, then glanced toward the window that faced our driveway. But we thought you deserved something special for this achievement. Something to help you start the next chapter of your life, right? He handed Kyle the small box. With uncertain fingers, Kyle opened it to reveal a key fob with the BMW logo clearly visible. The table erupted in gasps and exclamations. Kyle's eyes widened in disbelief. No way, he whispered. My father's smile widened. Way ye, he said, using Kyle's own teenage vernacular in a rare moment of playfulness. It's parked in the garage, black, just like you wanted. Chairs scraped as everyone rose to follow Kyle and my father to the garage. I remained seated for a moment, a cold weight settling in my stomach. A BMW for graduating high school with a C average. I thought of my ancient Honda with 200,000 miles on it, which I'd purchased myself with money saved from 3 simultaneous part-time jobs in college. Eventually, I followed the group to the garage, hanging at the back as everyone exclaimed over the shiny new car, a BMW 3 Series that had to have cost at least $40,000. Kyle was sitting in the chauffeur's seat, running his hands over the leather steering wheel with an expression of pure joy. This is insane, he kept saying. I can't believe it's mine. I plastered on a smile and waited for the right moment to approach, giving Kyle a side hug when the crowd around the car thinned. Congratulations, I said. And despite the hurt and confusion swirling inside me, I meant it. Kyle's excitement was genuine and infectious. You're going to be the coolest kid at community college. As Audrey Wilson quietly packed her bag late at night, shadows danced across her room, whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. The scent of rain seeped through the window, mingling with her anxiety. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. An anonymous message flashed on the screen, hinting at her family's hidden truths. Her heart raced, sweat trickling down her brow. Was this her moment to finally be seen, or a trap waiting to ensnare her? Just as she reached for the phone, a noise outside made her freeze. What was lurking in the darkness, listening? Audrey had always felt invisible, overshadowed by her brother Kyle, who just received a brand new BMW for his mediocre grades. The family celebrated him, while she quietly carried the weight of their expectations. She juggled a job, school, and the constant feeling of neglect. Her father's words echoed in her mind. It's time you started contributing properly. Contributing? She already bought groceries and paid for repairs. But to him, she was just another adult in the house, expected to pay $900 in rent. The contrast stung. Kyle, the golden child, basked in praise, while she was left to clean up the remnants of their celebration. As she loaded the dishwasher, her father's businesslike tone cut through the festive atmosphere. You're an adult now, he said, dismissing her contributions as if they were nothing. But Audrey was determined. She wouldn't let their favoritism define her. She needed to find her worth, to carve out a space where she could be recognized. The anonymous message felt like a lifeline, a chance to uncover the truth behind her family's facade. With a deep breath, she opened the message again. What if this was the key to her freedom? What if it revealed the secrets that had kept her in the shadows for so long? The rain intensified outside, a rhythmic reminder of the storm brewing within her. She had to know. As she stepped toward the window, the shadows seemed to shift, urging her to take a leap into the unknown. Would she finally break free from the chains of neglect, or would the darkness consume her? The night held its breath, waiting for her next move. "I'm saving for graduate school," I said, feeling a slight tremor in my voice. "You know that. That's why I moved back home." "Plans change," he replied with a shrug. $900 by Sunday." As he turned to leave, he paused. "And don't mention this to Kyle. Don't dampen his big day with adult concerns." Watching him walk away, something inside me snapped. After the last guest had left and Kyle dashed off to celebrate, I ventured into my father's study. He was lost in blueprints for some upcoming project. Mom sat in the living room, flipping through a magazine but not really reading it. Her anxious eyes kept glancing toward the study door. I knocked and entered without waiting for an invitation. "We need to talk about what you said earlier." My voice came out steadier than I anticipated, given the whirlwind inside me. My father shot me a glare, annoyance creeping across his face. "There's nothing to discuss. $900 rent due. Sunday. It's more than fair." I inhaled deeply. "It's not about the amount. It's the timing and the double standard. You just splurged tens of thousands on a luxury car for Kyle. When I graduated high school and college with honors, I got token gifts and a mountain of expectations." He leaned back in his chair, his expression turning cold. "You're comparing apples and oranges again, Audrey." Kyle needed the encouragement. "So, I'm punished for being self-sufficient? For not needing constant validation and rewards to reach basic milestones?" "Don't be dramatic," he replied. "You're being treated like the adult you claim to be. Adults pay their way in life. Then why isn't Kyle treated like an adult? He's 18 now, old enough to vote, join the military, sign contracts. Why does he get a free ride while I get a bill?" Silence filled the room, thick as the rain outside. Would this be the moment I finally broke free? Or would I remain just another shadow in the family? The stakes were high. Would I find my voice or let the darkness swallow my hopes once more? My father stood up, his patience visibly thinning. "Because that's how we've decided to parent each of you based on your different needs and circumstances." "No," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "It's because you value him more than me. You always have." Those words hung in the air, heavy with years of unspoken truth. My father's expression flickered. Surprise, anger, then something colder. "You want to know why Kyle gets different treatment?" he said finally. "Because he's worth it." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd suspected it for years, but hearing it laid bare knocked the breath from my lungs. "Richard." My mother appeared in the doorway, her face pale. She must have been listening from the living room. "You don't mean that." "I'm just being honest," my father replied, his gaze locked on me. "Audrey wants to be treated like an adult. Adults can handle the truth. Kyle has potential if he's given the right support. He could take over the business someday, something Audrey has never shown any interest in." "Because you never offered it to me," I said quietly, but he continued as if I hadn't spoken. "Kyle connects with people. He has charisma. He'll go places with the right backing. Audrey's chosen a path that's entirely her own, against our advice. Fine, but that means she's on her own financially too." My mother stepped fully into the room, placing herself between us, as if to shield me from the emotional shrapnel flying back and forth. "Richard, stop it. Audrey has always been a wonderful daughter. She's worked so hard, been so responsible, and she's thrown it all away on a dead-end job and plans for a degree that will drown her in debt for what? To listen to strangers' problems all day? What kind of life choice is that?" The tension in the room was palpable, like the scent of rain before a storm. I felt my heart race. the weight of their words pressing down on me. Would this be the moment I finally broke free? Or would I remain just another shadow in the family? As I stood there, fists clenched, my voice trembling yet fierce, I knew I had to confront them. Just as I questioned my worth, the room plunged into silence. A sudden, distant sound interrupted. The door creaked open. Who was waiting in the shadows? What would they reveal about my true place in this family? Would this moment finally change everything, or spiral it further out of control? And there it was, the real issue. Not that I hadn't achieved enough, but that my achievements weren't in directions my father valued. I hadn't followed in his footsteps or chosen a career path he understood. My independence wasn't a virtue to him. It was a rejection of his authority and values. My career choice is valid, I said, fighting to keep my voice from shaking. Mental health counseling helps people. It matters. So does real work, my father shot back. Building things, creating jobs, leaving something concrete behind. My mother placed a hand on his arm. Richard, please, let's all calm down and discuss this tomorrow when emotions aren't so high. But I was done with the family pattern of avoiding difficult conversations, of smoothing things over until the next incident. No, Mom. This needs to be said. Dad, I've spent my entire life trying to earn your approval. Do you know what it's like to bring home straight A's and have them dismissed as expected? To work multiple jobs through college to avoid asking you for money, only to have Kyle handed everything on a silver platter. Kyle has different challenges, my father began, but I cut him off. Yes, he does, and I love him regardless. This isn't about Kyle. It's about you and how you've made me feel invisible in my own family. Tonight was just the final proof that nothing I ever do will be good enough. From outside came the sound of Kyle's friends dropping him off, car doors slamming, and voices calling goodnight. The confrontation would have to end soon, one way or another. My father's expression closed like a vault. $900 by Sunday. If that's too difficult for you, perhaps it's time you found your own place to live. The words were delivered with such finality, such dismissal, that something inside me simply gave up. Years of hoping for recognition, of making excuses for the discrepancies in how we were treated, of telling myself that family dynamics were complicated. All of it collapsed under the weight of those few callous sentences. "You're right," I said, surprising myself with the calm in my voice. "It is time." My mother looked alarmed. "Audrey, don't make any hasty decisions. Your father doesn't mean what he's saying. We can talk about this tomorrow." But looking at my father's cold expression, I knew with absolute certainty that he meant exactly what he'd said. And for the first time, I saw with perfect clarity that nothing would ever change unless I changed it myself. "I'm going to bed," I said quietly. "It's been a long day." As I turned to leave, my father called after me. "Remember, $900 by Sunday." I didn't respond. In my heart, I already knew I wouldn't be there on Sunday. Kyle burst through the front door then, still riding the high of his graduation day. "Best day ever," he announced to no one in particular, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. I gave him a quick hug as I passed. "I'm glad, Kyle. You deserve to be happy." And despite everything, I meant it. My issues were with my parents, not with my brother, who had simply accepted the role and privileges he'd been offered. In my bedroom, I sat on the edge of my bed and felt the physical sensation of my heart breaking. Not like the sharp pain I'd imagined, but like something coming untethered, floating free after years of straining against its moorings. There was sadness, yes, but also a strange lightness. For the first time in 24 years, I was seeing my family clearly without the distorting lens of hope and rationalization. I heard my mother's soft knock at the door, but pretended to be asleep. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Tonight, I needed to think. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay awake, replaying my father's words over and over because he's worth it. 4 simple words that crystallized a lifetime of feeling second best, of achievements dismissed, of love that seemed conditional on conformity to expectations I could never quite grasp. Around 3 a.m., the world was still. I cracked open my laptop, ready to face the numbers that had haunted me. My job paid $45,000 a year before taxes. Sure, it was decent for an entry-level gig, but with the soaring cost of living, it felt like a joke. I'd saved nearly $20,000 for grad school by pinching pennies, living at home, and dreaming. But now, staring at my finances, I realized something crucial. I had enough for my first month's rent, a security deposit, and the essentials for my own place. I texted Jennifer, needing to vent. Dad demands $900 rent starting now. Why does Kyle get a BMW for graduating while I'm handed a bill? He said it's because Kyle is worth it. I think I'm done. To my surprise, a response buzzed back almost instantly. Holy Audrey, that's beyond messed up. What are you going to do? I think I need to move out. Not just eventually, but now. Her reply hit me harder than expected. My couch is yours for as long as you need it. No questions asked. Tears blurred my vision. Jennifer had seen the subtle cracks in my family over the 5 years since college orientation. She gently suggested that my relationship with Dad was toxic, but she never pushed when I made excuses. Thank you. I might take you up on that while I find a place. Seriously, anytime starting tonight if you need it. With a shaky breath, I looked up apartments, bookmarking a few studios within a 30-minute drive from work. The local rental market wasn't forgiving, but I was determined. As dawn peeked through my window, I finally drifted into a restless sleep, my mind made up, yet my heart still aching. It felt like standing on the edge of a new life, unsure, but desperately hopeful. Would I finally find the recognition and respect I craved? Would I no longer feel invisible? Only time would tell. When my alarm went off at 7, I lay in bed for a few extra minutes, listening to the sounds of my family moving around the house, my mother in the kitchen, the coffee maker gurgling, Kyle's music playing softly from his room, my father's heavy footsteps down the hallway. For a moment, homesickness hit me preemptively, a longing for the comfort of the familiar, even with all its flaws. But then I remembered my father's words, the cold dismissal in his eyes, and the feeling past replaced by resolve. At breakfast, I maintained a facade of normalcy, discussing weekend plans and responding to questions about work as if nothing had changed. My father made no mention of our conversation from the night before, apparently considering the matter settled. My mother watched me with worried eyes but said nothing of substance. Kyle and I are going to the dealership to finalize the paperwork for his car, my father announced as he finished his coffee. Then we thought we'd take it for a proper test drive up to the lake. Want to join us, Laura? My mother hesitated, glancing at me. What about you, Audrey? Would you like to come? I'm pretty tired from yesterday, I said, forcing a smile. I think I'll just hang around here. Maybe catch up on some reading. My father nodded, unsurprised and unperturbed by my absence from the family plan. Kyle looked briefly disappointed but was too excited about his new car to dwell on it. We'll be back around dinner time, my mother said, squeezing my shoulder as she passed. Maybe we could watch that show you've been telling me about tonight. Sure, Mom, I replied, recognizing her attempt at peacemaking, but knowing it was too little, too late. Once they were gone, the house fell into silence. I stood in the kitchen for a long moment, looking around at the space that had been my home for most of my life. The height chart on the wall by the pantry marking Kyle's and my growth over the years. The refrigerator covered in family photos and Kyle's sports schedules. The small herb garden on the windowsill that I had planted and maintained. There was love in this house, imperfect, unevenly distributed, but real nonetheless. For a brief moment I wavered, wondering if I was overreacting to one bad day, one hurtful comment. But then I remembered all the small moments that had led to this point. The pattern was clear, and it wouldn't change unless I changed my role within it. With that thought, I headed to my room and began the methodical process of deciding what to take and what to leave behind. Clothes were easy. All of them would come with me, packed efficiently into 2 large suitcases I'd used for college. Books were harder. There were too many to take all at once. So I selected the most meaningful ones and a few I was currently reading. My laptop, important documents, and professional clothes for work were non-negotiable. In my closet, I found a box of childhood mementos, report cards with straight A's and generic good work comments from teachers, medals from academic competitions, the valedictorian medal from high school. I had saved them for years, these tokens of achievements that had gone largely unseal-braided at home. After a moment's hesitation, I left them behind. The past was the past, and I no longer needed physical reminders of my quest for approval. My bedroom slowly transformed as I packed, becoming less personal, more like a generic guest room. It was a physical manifestation of my emotional detachment. And there was something cathartic about the process. Around noon, I called my supervisor at work. "Elaine, I hate to do this, but I need to take a few personal days next week. A family situation has come up that requires my immediate attention." Elaine, who had always been supportive of work-life balance, didn't hesitate. "Of course, Audrey. Is everything okay?" "It will be," I said, surprised by how much I meant it. Audrey stands at the doorway of her dimly lit room, gripping a faded family photo. It feels cold in her hand, yet memories flood back like the scent of rain after a storm. Her eyes dart between that cracked image from happier times and the open college acceptance letter that feels like a ticket to freedom, a promise of what could be. Silence hangs heavy, broken only by her shallow breaths. Just as she hesitates, a sudden knock echoes through the house, the sound sharp enough to break glass. A shadow looms behind the door, someone who could unravel everything she's fought for. Will she confront her family's suffocating secrets or run once more? The choice fills the room, thick with an anticipation that's almost palpable. With the weight of her past pressing down, Audrey remembers the imperfections of her home, where love sometimes felt unevenly distributed. Every negative word from her parents had stacked upon her heart like bricks. She drags herself to her cluttered room, preparing for a necessary transformation. Clothes are easy to pack, each item a stepping stone towards independence. But the books, too many to carry at once. She picks a handful that resonate deeply, those that kept her company in her loneliest moments. Then there's her laptop, essential for her career, alongside professional clothes, symbols of the life she desires. In her closet, she stumbles upon a box of her childhood memories. Report cards brimming with straight A's, medals from competitions, the valedictorian medal that felt like a cruel joke now. Hesitant at first, she ultimately lets them go, realizing she no longer needs scraps of the past. Her bedroom morphs from a sanctuary into a stark guest room, mirroring her emotional detachment. Around noon, the phone call comes. She dials her supportive supervisor, Elaine. "I need a few personal days next week, a family situation." Elaine's kindness wraps around her like a warm blanket. "Of course, Audrey. Is everything okay?" The answer lies buried within her, but she replies, "It will be." A surprising sense of determination surges through her as she prepares for what's next. By 3 p.m., her car stands packed, filled with the essentials for her new life. One task remains: the note. Sitting at her small desk, the blank page stares back, challenging her. How to say goodbye without ripping apart the fragile threads of connection. The first draft brims with anger, the second bleeds apologies. Finally, she finds her voice on the fourth try. "Dear Mom, Dad, and Kyle, it's time for me to live on my own. Last night showed me that my place in this family isn't what I hoped. I'll be looking for my own apartment. Mom, I love you, but I can't keep pretending I'm okay. Kyle, this isn't your fault. You're doing great. Enjoy your graduation. I'll keep in touch once I'm settled. Love, Audrey." She reads it twice for clarity and crams it into an envelope, "Family," scrawled across the front. After one last scan of her room, now echoes of the girl she once was, she heads downstairs and places it prominently on the refrigerator, secured by a magnet shaped like the Eiffel Tower, a relic of simpler days. Keys in hand, standing in that doorway for the last time, a rush of complex emotions floods her: relief, anxiety, determination. What's waiting behind the next door? Only time will tell, but for the first time, she's ready to find out. Grief for what could have been, anger at what was, fear of the unknown. But beneath it all, a spark of liberation ignited within me. For the first time in my adult life, I was making a choice based solely on my needs, not on what others expected. "Goodbye," I whispered to the empty house, then stepped out, closing the door softly behind me. The first few days at Jennifer's apartment blurred together, filled with practical tasks and emotional processing. Jennifer had cleared space in her closet for my clothes, inflated an air mattress in her living room, and stocked the fridge with my favorite comfort foods. Her unwavering support felt like a warm embrace, a stark contrast to the conditional acceptance I'd known growing up. "Stay as long as you need," she insisted when I worried about imposing. Seriously, it's like college again, but with better food and fewer all-nighters. But as night fell, my phone lit up with notifications. It was the moment my family would discover my note. Kyle texted first, his messages growing frantic. "Audrey, where are you? Please come home. Everyone's freaking out. Did something happen? Mom won't stop crying. At least tell me you're safe." I only replied to the last one. "I'm safe. Staying with a friend. Need some space right now. We'll explain later." My mother called 14 times that first evening. Each call went to voicemail. I wasn't ready for that conversation. Her messages shifted from tearful pleas to confusion, then to anger. "This is childish and unnecessary," my father texted. When I didn't respond, he left a voicemail, his tone sharp. "Your dramatic exit won't change the fact that adults have responsibilities." As I lay on the air mattress, the city's distant hum filled the silence. I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. What awaited me in this new chapter? Would I find the respect and recognition I craved? Just as I began to drift off, my phone buzzed again. A new message flashed. "They've made a decision about your future, but it's not what you think." My heart raced. Was this the breakthrough I'd been waiting for, or the final blow I never saw coming? Finally, a formal-sounding email informing me that I had until the end of the month to remove the rest of my belongings, or they would be disposed of appropriately. Not once did he ask if I was okay. Not once did he acknowledge that his words might have contributed to my decision to leave. It was confirmation that I'd made the right choice, however painful. The extended family soon got involved. My Aunt Meredith, my father's sister, called on day 3. "I'm not taking sides," she began, which usually meant she was about to do exactly that. "But your parents are beside themselves. Your mother can barely function." "I'm sorry. Mom is hurting," I said, meaning it. "But I couldn't stay in that house anymore." "What happened?" "Richard won't say much, just that you had a disagreement about rent." I hesitated, then decided the truth was the simplest option. Dad bought Kyle a brand new BMW for graduating high school with barely passing grades. The same night, he told me I need to start paying $900 a month in rent because I'm an adult now. When I pointed out the double standard, he said, "The difference is that Kyle is worth it." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "He said that? Those exact words?" "Yes." Aunt Meredith sighed heavily. "Oh, Richard, he always was an idiot with words." Another pause. "Look, I'm not excusing what he said. It was cruel and untrue. But you know your father, he's never been good at expressing himself, especially with you. You're too much like your grandmother, his mother. Smart, independent, questioning. It intimidates him. That's not an excuse for 24 years of making me feel like I'm less valuable than my brother." "No, it's not," she agreed, surprising me. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing, getting some distance. Just don't cut them off completely. Okay, your mother is truly devastated and Kyle is confused and hurt. I'm not cutting anyone off, I assured her. I just need time and space to figure out what kind of relationship I can have with them going forward. After hanging up, I felt a strange sense of validation. Having an outside perspective, a family member at that acknowledged the problematic dynamic helped combat the self-doubt that had begun creeping in. Was I overreacting? Was I being selfish? Aunt Meredith's reaction suggested not. By the end of the first week, I had established a routine. Work during the day, apartment hunting during lunch breaks and evenings. Jennifer and I would cook dinner together, then watch mindless television shows until I felt tired enough to sleep. On Friday evening, she convinced me to join her for happy hour with some friends from her community center. You need to get out of your head for a few hours, she insisted. No family drama, no apartment stress, just overpriced cocktails and people who don't know your life story. She was right. The evening out was refreshing, a reminder that there was a whole world beyond my family troubles. I laughed for what felt like the first time in days and even exchanged numbers with Jennifer's colleague Mark, who worked in IT and had kind eyes and a dry sense of humor. The apartment search progressed faster than expected. The third place I viewed, a small but well-maintained studio in a converted Victorian house, felt right immediately. The landlady, Mrs. Chen, was a retired teacher who valued quiet, responsible tenants over maximizing profit. When I explained my situation in vague terms, Kyle arrived looking tired and confused, his usual carefree demeanor subdued. He hugged me tightly before sitting down. "Are you coming home?" he asked immediately. "No," I said gently. "I found my own place. I'm moving in next week." His face fell. "But why is it because of my car?" "Because I'll give it back if that's what this is about." "It's not about the car, Kyle." "Not really." I took a deep breath considering how much to share. He was 18, technically an adult, but still my little brother who I wanted to protect. It's about how Dad and I interact, about patterns that have been there our whole lives. I need space to be my own person, not just Richard Wilson's responsible daughter. "But what about me?" Kyle asked, his voice small. "I'm starting community college in the fall. I was counting on you being there to help me with essays and stuff." "I'm not disappearing from your life," I assured him. "We can meet up anytime you want. You can still call or text for help with school. I'm just not living under the same roof anymore." Kyle was quiet for a moment, stirring his untouched coffee. "Dad's really angry," he finally said. "He says you're being selfish and dramatic." "What do you think?" I asked, genuinely curious about his perspective. He shrugged. "I think something big must have happened that no one's telling me about. One day, everything was fine. We were celebrating my graduation. I got my dream car. The next day, you're gone and Mom's crying all the time and Dad's stomping around slamming doors." I hesitated, then decided Kyle deserved some version of the truth. "After you went out with your friends on graduation night, Dad told me I needed to start paying $900 a month in rent. When I pointed out that he had just bought you a luxury car for graduating while I got nothing for my graduations, things got heated. He said some things that made it clear my place in the family isn't what I thought it was." "What things?" Kyle pressed. The scent of freshly baked apple pie drifts through the warm kitchen as Audrey catches her reflection in the window. She sees her younger self, laughing with her sister in sunlit fields, the distant hum of cicadas filling the air. The tactile feel of sun-warmed grass under her bare feet transports her back. Her mother's gentle touch on her shoulder and the sound of her childhood voice calling her "smart girl" evoke a bittersweet longing for recognition. It's a feeling she craves now, deepening her resolve to be seen for who she truly is. In a world where family dynamics can feel suffocating, Audrey Wilson stands at a crossroads. She's determined, intelligent, and ambitious, yet she feels invisible and unappreciated within her own family. Balancing academic success with familial neglect, she grapples with the weight of expectations. Why can't they see me? She wonders, her heart heavy with the burden of unfulfilled dreams. When her father demands she start paying rent after her brother's graduation, it's the final straw. You got him a luxury car, and I got nothing, she confronts him, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. The tension in the room thickens, and she realizes her place in the family isn't what she thought. I need to establish my independence, she tells her brother Kyle, who looks at her with concern. Are you okay? Like, really okay? His question touches her deeply. For the first time, someone is asking about her well-being, not just how her absence affects others. I'm getting there, she admits, feeling a flicker of hope. It's hard and scary, but also kind of exciting. As they talk, the conversation shifts to lighter topics, and Audrey feels a new connection with Kyle. It's a bond based on mutual respect, not the protector-protected dynamic they've always had. 2 weeks later, she moves into her studio apartment, her meager possessions transforming the space into something personal. Sitting on her second-hand couch that night, she feels an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. This is hers. Audrey's journey is just beginning. She's determined to find her worth, pursue her career, and gain the respect she deserves. In a world that often overlooks the quiet struggles of those around us, her story is a reminder that we all have the power to redefine our narratives. Will she find the recognition she craves? Only time will tell. All mine earned through my own efforts, chosen by my own preferences, arranged according to my own taste. The following week, I received an unexpected email from my old professor and mentor, Dr. Hansen. Audrey, I heard through department channels that you've been accepted to the graduate program. Congratulations. I'm leading a research project on trauma-informed care that has funding for a part-time research assistant. The position comes with partial tuition reimbursement. Would you be interested in discussing it? The timing couldn't have been more perfect. The position would not only provide additional income, but would give me valuable experience in my field and help offset the cost of graduate school. After a successful interview, I accepted the position, which would start in conjunction with the fall semester. As summer progressed, I established new routines and boundaries. I spoke with my mother weekly, conversations that were initially tense and tearful, but gradually evolved into something resembling normal. She never explicitly acknowledged the favoritism or my father's hurtful words, but there was a new respect in how she treated me, as if my independence had forced her to see me as an adult in a way living at home had not. My father was a different story. After his initial angry messages, he retreated into stony silence. It was Kyle who informed me that he had forbidden anyone to mention my name at dinner, a childish response that only reinforced my decision to leave. I sent him a formal email with my new address for any mail that might arrive for me and received a one-word response. Noted. 6 months after moving out, my life had transformed in ways both subtle and profound. I had started graduate school, excelling in my courses while balancing work and the research position. I had made new friends through classes and professional networking events. Audrey Wilson stood at the precipice of a life-changing moment. The dim light in her tiny Philadelphia apartment flickered, shadows dancing around her as she felt the weight of her unnoticed sacrifices. She had fought through family neglect, a battle that left her feeling invisible and unappreciated. Now, with her heart pounding, she faced a crossroads, her future hanging in the balance. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door shattered her thoughts. Who was standing there? What revelation awaited her that could either crack open her concealed world or push her deeper into shadows? The scent of rain wafted through the air, hinting at something more stirring than the cloudy sky outside. As she opened the door, her parents stepped in, their presence a confusing mix of anxiety and tentative hope. Her mother clutched her purse tightly, while her father lingered awkwardly behind, masking his emotions under a veneer of indifference. "May we come in?" her mother asked, breaking the silence that enveloped them like a heavy fog. "Sure," Audrey replied, stepping aside. She felt a rush of conflicting emotions, defiance mingling with the flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point she had longed for. As they entered her small sanctuary, their critical gazes analyzed every corner, every piece of second-hand furniture. The lack of a dining table echoed her family's neglect, a stark reminder of the life she'd carved for herself, away from their shadows. "It's cozy," her mother attempted to compliment, her voice feeble. Audrey clenched her fists. Was this really all they could muster? "It suits me," she replied, tension thick in the air. She turned off the stove, the fading sound of bubbling sauce punctuating the silence. "Would you like something to drink? I have water, tea, or wine." "Water is fine," her father finally spoke, breaking a 6-month silence that had grown heavier with each passing day. As she busied herself preparing drinks, a million thoughts raced through her mind. This was not the family reunion she had often imagined. Instead, this was a fragile chance, a moment that could either bring them closer or reveal the chasms that still separated them. What would they discuss? Would her parents acknowledge their past neglect? Or would they retreat again, preferring the safety of silence? The unanswered questions hung in the air, just heavy enough to make her think twice about the courage she had built. With drinks in hand, she turned back to face them, her heart racing. This was it, the moment that could add layers to her journey. Would her family finally see her, or would they continue their routine of turning a blind eye? The tension wrapped around them, thick as the summer air, and as every second passed, Audrey felt a strength surge through her. Maybe this time she wouldn't just be the invisible daughter. Audrey sat in her dimly lit room, the city's distant hum contrasting with her racing heartbeat. As she scrolled through her phone, an anonymous message flashed on the screen. "You're more invisible than you think." Her breath caught, senses sharpening. Was this a cruel joke, or did someone truly see her? Doubt flickered like a candle in the wind, threatening to snuff out her ambition. Just as she contemplated replying, a sudden knock at the door sent a jolt through her. Who was it? What did they want? Would she finally confront her truth or remain hidden in the shadows? When they finally settled in, her parents on the couch and her in the lone armchair, she asked the question that hung in the air. "Why are you here?" Her mother shot a glance at her father, a silent plea for him to take charge. To her surprise, he cleared his throat and met her gaze. "Your brother is struggling," he said, his voice steady. "He's talking about dropping out of college." Audrey's heart sank. "What? Why? He was so excited about his classes just last week." Her parents exchanged looks of disbelief. "You've been seeing Kyle?" her mother asked, her tone a mix of surprise and concern. "Yeah, we meet up every couple of weeks. He didn't tell you?" Her father's jaw tightened. "No, he didn't. Apparently, there are a lot of things he doesn't share with us anymore." "Richard," her mother warned softly, then turned back to Audrey. "We're worried about him. He's withdrawn. His grades are slipping. Yesterday, he said he doesn't see the point in school if he's just going to end up working for his father." Audrey processed this, trying to reconcile it with the enthusiastic Kyle who had proudly shown her his English essay just days ago. "Has something happened? Did you two have a fight?" Her father shifted uncomfortably. "Not exactly, but since you left, things have changed. Kyle questions everything now. Nothing we say seems right." A realization hit her. He was seeing the family dynamic differently because she wasn't there to balance it out. Her mother nodded slowly. "Without you taking responsibility for everything, we've had to ask more of Kyle. He's not handling the pressure well." Her father finished, bewilderment lacing his voice. "Everything I ask becomes an argument. If I offer advice, he says I'm controlling." Audrey felt the weight of their words. Could this be the moment she needed to step back into the light? Would her family finally see her, or would they continue to overlook her? The tension hung thick, and as she prepared to respond, she felt a surge of strength. Maybe this time, she wouldn't just be the invisible daughter. Audrey Wilson stood at her bedroom window, heart racing. Shadows flickered in the living room below, and a muffled sound drifted up. Was that her mother crying? The scent of rain wafted through the air, mixing with the tension that hung heavy in her chest. She hesitated, torn between confronting the chaos or slipping away to find answers. The dim glow of the streetlight illuminated her determined face, a flicker of hope battling against uncertainty. Just as she reached for her coat, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Was this the breakthrough she'd been waiting for, or the start of something even darker? In the living room, her parents were deep in conversation. "Your brother is struggling," her father said, his voice steady yet laced with concern. "He's talking about dropping out of college." Audrey's heart sank. What? Why? He was so excited just last week. Their worried expressions told her everything. "You've been seeing Kyle?" her mother asked, surprise and concern mingling in her tone. "Yeah, we meet up every couple of weeks. He didn't tell you." Her father's jaw tightened. "No, he didn't. Apparently, there are a lot of things he doesn't share with us anymore." A realization hit Audrey. Kyle was feeling the weight of their family dynamics, and without her there to balance it out, he was struggling. "Without you taking responsibility for everything, we've had to ask more of Kyle. He's not handling the pressure well," her mother admitted. Audrey felt the weight of their words. Could this be the moment she needed to step back into the light? Would her family finally see her, or would they continue to overlook her? "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice steady. "We thought maybe you could talk to him. He respects you," her mother replied. "I'll talk to Kyle, but I won't pressure him. He needs to figure out what he wants, not what you want for him." An uncomfortable silence fell. So many unspoken issues lingered in the air. Finally, her mother broke the stillness. "We've missed you, Audrey. The house isn't the same without you." "I've missed aspects of home, too," she admitted, "but I needed this." She gestured around her apartment. "I needed to know I could stand on my own." "You've always been able to stand on your own," her father said quietly. "That was never in question. For you, maybe. For me, it was something I had to prove to myself." Her father looked down, then back at her, uncertainty etched on his face. "I said things that night. Things I shouldn't have said." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was the closest thing she'd ever received from him. "Your mother has pointed out that I've been uneven in how I treat you and Kyle," he continued. "That's one way of putting it," Audrey replied, unable to hide the edge in her voice. "No, she's right," her father said, surprising them both. "I've expected more from you and given you less recognition. It wasn't fair." As the weight of his words settled in, Audrey felt a flicker of hope. Could this be the turning point? Would her family finally see her for who she truly was? The tension hung thick, and as she prepared to respond, she felt a surge of strength. Maybe this time, she wouldn't just be the invisible daughter. Audrey Wilson stood in her dimly lit room, the rain pounding against the window, blending with the weight of her family's neglect. She felt the damp scent of rain seep through the cracks, mixing with the solitude that surrounded her. In her trembling hands, she clutched a letter, her acceptance to a prestigious university. But as the words danced before her eyes, a chilling doubt crept in. Had anyone in her family even noticed her achievement? Would this golden opportunity be her final shot at stepping into the light? She hesitated, paralyzed by fear. Would they finally acknowledge her, or would she remain the invisible daughter lost in the shadows? As the screen faded to black, one question lingered in the air. Would she choose to shine or stay hidden forever? "I don't know how to fix this," her father admitted, the weight of his words dense in the air. A lump formed in her throat. She swallowed hard. "But I want to try for Kyle's sake, if nothing else." The acknowledgement stung, a slow turn toward vulnerability that she hadn't expected. A lifetime of emotional distance between them couldn't vanish in a heartbeat, but this moment held promise. "I won't move back home," she declared, her voice steady, "but I'm open to rebuilding our relationship, slowly." Her mother squeezed her hand, tears glistening in her eyes. "That's all we're asking for." As they prepared to leave, her father paused, a rare glimmer of sincerity crossing his face. "You've done well for yourself here," he said, his tone gruff but earnest. "It's not what I'd have chosen, but it suits you." Coming from him, it felt like a lifeline. After they left, silence filled her apartment. She processed the unexpected visit, realizing this was just the beginning. The following weekend brought another chance. She met Kyle at their favorite coffee shop. His surprise was evident when she broached the subject of his struggles. "Mom and Dad came to see you?" he asked, disbelief etched across his face. "They're worried about you, and so am I," she admitted, concern weighing on her. "I'm fine, mostly, but I don't know if community college is right for me," he confessed, running a hand through his hair. "Every time I try to talk to Dad, he shuts me down." "What other options are you considering?" "A gap year. Maybe traveling, working different jobs to see what I actually enjoy." The anxiety in his eyes was palpable. "Is that crazy?" "Not at all," she replied, her voice firm. "Lots of people explore before committing to a path. You should try telling Dad that." Audrey felt the tension shift, a glimmer of hope emerging from the shadows. For the first time, she sensed that both of them were on a journey toward recognition, and perhaps their family was finally ready to see them both. The rain tapped softly against the window, a soothing rhythm that matched the tension in the air. Audrey Wilson sat across from her brother Kyle, the weight of their family's expectations heavy on both their shoulders. "You know," she began, her voice steady, "you don't have to follow Dad's plan. You can carve your own path." Kyle looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "But what if that's not what I want?" A smile crept onto her face. "Exactly. You have to live for yourself, not for anyone else." "How did you get so brave?" he asked, genuine curiosity in his tone. "It wasn't bravery. It was necessity," she confessed, the memories of her own struggles flooding back. "I had to leave to find myself." Kyle nodded, understanding dawning. "I think I'm reaching that point, too. Not about living at home, but about Dad's plan." "Then you need to talk to him," she urged, her heart racing. "I'll be there for you, but this is your decision." As the weeks passed, their family began to shift. Conversations that once felt stilted became more open. Kyle finally confronted their father, and to everyone's surprise, he agreed to a compromise. "You'll finish your first year of community college," he said, his tone gruff but surprisingly supportive. "Then take a year to explore." Audrey felt a spark of hope. She and Kyle were finally being seen. But the real twist came when she decided to confront her mother, Margaret Carter. The room was warm, filled with the faint scent of lavender, but as she spoke, the atmosphere shifted. "I felt invisible, Mom. Like my dreams don't matter." Margaret's eyes widened, and for a moment silence enveloped them. Then, with a trembling voice, she revealed, "I've been supporting your dreams all along, just hidden behind my own struggles." Audrey's heart raced. What she thought was neglect transformed into a profound realization of love. The darkness in the room faded, replaced by warmth that enveloped her. In that moment, she understood. Her worth wasn't defined by her family's recognition, but by the unseen sacrifices made for her. The journey to self-acceptance had begun, and she was finally ready to embrace it. Conversations that ranged from casual catching up to deeper discussions about family dynamics and her own experiences as a young woman. "I should have stood up for you more," she admitted during one such lunch. "I knew Richard favored Kyle, but I told myself it was because you were so self-sufficient that you didn't need the same kind of support." "Why did you stay with him?" I asked. A question I'd wondered about for years. "You must have seen how he treated you sometimes. Not just me." She considered this thoughtfully. "I loved him. still do despite his flaws. And there were good times, too, moments you probably didn't see. Plus, divorce wasn't something women of my generation did lightly. She smiled sadly. But if I'm being completely honest, part of it was fear of starting over alone. You're braver than I ever was, Audrey. My relationship with my father remained the most complicated. Old patterns don't disappear overnight, and he struggled to relate to me as an independent adult rather than the beautiful daughter he had expected me to remain. But there were small changes. He made an effort to ask about my graduate studies, sent an awkwardly formal email congratulating me when I was published as a co-author on Dr. Hansen's research paper, and stopped making dismissive comments about my career choice. A year after I'd left home, I hosted a small dinner party in my apartment, which I had recently upgraded to a one-bedroom in the same building. My parents and Kyle were among the guests, along with Jennifer, my Aunt Meredith, and a few close friends from work and school. Watching my father engage in polite conversation with my professor about the practical applications of psychological research. Seeing my mother help serve dessert in my tiny kitchen. Observing Kyle deep in conversation with my friend Marcus about travel opportunities abroad. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't expected to achieve so soon. The power dynamic in our family had fundamentally shifted. Audrey Wilson stood at the doorway of her family home, the dim glow of sunset casting long shadows across her face. Her heart raced, a mix of relief and uncertainty. She finally saw her family gathered, but their expressions were unreadable. Silence hung thick in the air, broken only by the distant sounds of sirens and the rustle of leaves outside, a reminder of the ongoing struggle beyond these walls. Just as she took a step forward, ready to break the silence, a sudden loud noise from inside made her freeze. What was about to be revealed? Would it finally shift her sense of worth forever? Audrey had always felt invisible, overshadowed by her brother Kyle, the golden child. While she excelled academically, her family's neglect left her yearning for recognition. She was determined to find her worth, to carve out a career in mental health counseling, and to gain the respect she craved. But how could she break free from the chains of familial favoritism? As she navigated her journey, she discovered the power of her own voice. Conversations with her mother, Margaret Carter, revealed the complexities of their family dynamics. "I thought you didn't need me," Margaret admitted, her voice tinged with regret. "But I see now how much you've struggled." Audrey felt a flicker of hope. Could this be the turning point? With each small victory, like hosting a dinner party in her new apartment, Audrey felt the power dynamics shift. Her father, once an unquestioned authority, began to see her as an independent adult. "I'm proud of you," he said, his words a balm to her wounded spirit. Yet the journey was far from smooth. Old patterns lingered, and difficult conversations still loomed. But with every holiday navigated and every disagreement resolved, they built a new family dynamic, one rooted in mutual respect. Looking back, Audrey realized that the moment her father had demanded rent while gifting Kyle a luxury car had been a catalyst for change. It forced her to confront her role as the good daughter, seeking approval that would never come. In that painful moment, she found the courage to reclaim her narrative. Now, standing at the threshold of her family home, she felt a sense of empowerment. The noise from inside faded, replaced by the sound of her own heartbeat. Would she finally step into her worth? Would this be the moment that changed everything? The most profound lesson I learned through it all was that true self-worth comes not from external validation from parents or anyone else, but from honoring your own values and boundaries. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and ultimately for your relationships, is to walk away from situations that diminish you, even when those situations involve the people who are supposed to love you most. As I helped Kyle move into his own apartment near campus the following year, a modest place he was paying for primarily himself through a part-time job and scholarships, he thanked me for showing him it was possible to forge his own path. "If you hadn't left that night, I don't think I ever would have questioned anything," he said as we assembled a bookshelf together. "You changed everything, not just for yourself, but for all of us." His words stayed with me, a reminder that our actions can have ripple effects beyond what we initially imagine. By choosing myself in that moment of crisis, I had not only changed my own life, but had created space for others to change as well. Sometimes walking away isn't an ending, but the first step toward building something better, something true, something healthy, something that can genuinely last. And sometimes the note you leave behind opens the door to conversations that should have happened years ago. Have you ever had to walk away from a situation to preserve your self-respect? What difficult family dynamics have you navigated in your own life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength in difficult situations. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, please share this video with them. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's sometimes the most necessary act of self-preservation.